It is 9 o'clock. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, we'd like to welcome everybody here that's at the courthouse and those of you out in Zoom land. It's another beautiful day in Dickinson County. Our first order of business will be an update from the Fair Board. Ms. Reiser.
So, in front of you are budget information, which I share for you each year, so you know exactly how we're spending the money. In my opening letter, we do a lot of repair work at buildings 20+ years old. I will say that this coming 2024 looks a lot better. We have like 6 or 7 more weddings than we had last year. There's hardly a weekend open that you can even book to have something out there. We're full. So that is exciting news for us. So we think we're maybe have turned the corner in funding a little bit better.
The new doors are amazing.
Can you hear?
Yep. The new doors are amazing.
The new doors are, yes. And that was one thing, you know, those doors don't come cheap. I about fell off the chair when it was like $39,000 for those doors. I said, are you kidding me? It's a glass door. Anyway, so yes, we are, I feel like we're a turtle because we move slow, but we do eventually get our projects completed and we do get them paid. Does anybody have any questions about the budget information I submitted to you? Other than
Well, you answered my question.
bar bag.
So.
Yeah. We're hoping that you can honor our request again, because for the Fair Board, that means so much to our total picture of what we do out there, of, you know, supporting the 4-H program and becoming a building that the community really does need in this area. And if you do have any questions, just feel free to call me. I'll be glad to try to answer them. If I can't, I will find the answer for you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Short
you.
and sweet. I know you have a long agenda.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate what you do.
Okay, next up, Mary.
First of all, thanks for all that you're doing for the citizens of the county. Your both financial and personal support mean a whole lot to all of us here, and we appreciate that. I submitted earlier the budget request for fiscal year 25, and I wondered if you had any questions about that. It's a different sort of budget this year because we have a big project coming up. And so we've made some adjustments in the budget for that. Two things that you'll notice is that we have asked for a $5,000 increase. And that is because you may have heard that we have recently insulated the building and added heat and cooling to the depot building, which means that we can now use that structure 12 months a year. Until about a month ago, the building was unusable most of the year because it had not a speck of insulation in it. It was built in 1883 and still was at the 1883 standards. Having heat in there makes a huge difference. A few weeks ago, we invited the community in for a Christmas party where we used the old pump organ from the Arnold's Park Friends Church. And we sang carols and we told stories, and we were able to do that in this old building, and it was just amazing. The space was totally full. Our programming has increased significantly. Our attendance continues to increase significantly. We're offering much more to the community, and the community is offering much more to us. Also. So any questions about the budget?
Well, just a question. Is there a standard atmosphere for the inside of museums, and are we close to having that? You know, for the preservation.
We are now. Our, we were in a pretty dangerous situation with the museum. Without heat and cooling, our artifacts were stressed beyond belief. And that was one of our reasons for putting heat and cooling in that structure, was to protect the artifacts. We are using the second floor, the former depot agents' living quarters for storage. And that also had no heat and cooling in it. It does now.
Okay.
And so we feel that our artifacts are well maintained now. It's been a
Okay.
long time coming, but we're there.
I find it interesting, all the programs that you've got started there. And I think you've got John Smeltzer hooked pretty deeply.
He is an amazing person. He is helping us on so many fronts. Besides doing presentations, he's always available as a resource. And he has recently taught 2 classes on using ancestry and the resources that we have at the museum, which were attended by folks even from Minnesota. I mean, we're getting to be known as a regional place for research and resources. And that feels really, really, really good.
Okay, gentlemen, any further questions for Mary?
I don't have a question, but as I've said before, Mary, you and your staff and volunteers have just, you know how they used to call some states flyover states. Museums seem to be a drive-by, and through your efforts and everybody there, the programming, you've got more and more people coming in there, and it's just a wonderful thing, and people are learning about the history of Dickinson County. So hats off
Thanks,
for a
Jeff.
fabulous job.
Plus, it's a lot of fun. I wanted to highlight that we have had, I think through November, 1,062 volunteer hours at the museum and approximately 2,400 staff hours for this year. Also, you may have heard that we are embarking on a huge project. For the first time since 1995, we're doing a capital campaign to renovate the depot structure back to the way it was. We're calling it our All Aboard, We're Bringing the Depot Back to Life campaign. What we are doing is we are creating interactive exhibits in the depot that will help folks not just see, but actually experience the way the depot was back about 1900. It will also be highlighting all of the communities in the county and the railroad effects for the entire county. The depots were the hub of the communities, and kids don't know about them now at all. They don't understand that everything that came into the county and everything that left the county went through these depots. The other facet that we're going to be highlighting is the fact that without the railroads, tourism would not be what it is today. It was the railroads that brought the tourism to Dickinson County.
Mhm.
So I do have some information I'd like to give you about that.
Okay. You. Thanks, Mary.
Again, thanks for your time and all that you do for the museum.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Okay, next up, a judicial review from Judge Peterson.
Morning, gentlemen. Morning. All right, so I think I told you last year, I don't know if it was in December, that I try to get here every year and give you an update, just kind of where the court system is, how we're doing. And just kind of update. And then this year, probably have a little more something specific to bring to you. But thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm going to focus kind of on District 3A. I don't have numbers yet for Dickinson County alone, but District 3A is where I operate in, and all the judges that you probably are aware of operate within District 3A, which is Dickinson County, Osceola, Lyon, O'Brien, Cherokee, Buena Vista, Clay, Palo Alto, Cassuth, and Emmett. So we have 5 district court judges like me in that operate in that district. We have 4 district associate judges, like Judge Disworth, that operates in that district. And then we have, I think, about 6 magistrates, because district associate judges also work as magistrates as well. So we don't have 10 magistrates in our jurisdiction. Our clerk staff, we fully staff all our courthouses. When I was a county attorney years ago, there was a talk about closing clerk's offices in the courthouses, and that's not even, you don't even hear that anymore. But we do have what's called a rural initiative, which allows clerk's offices to be more efficient, primarily through not just working in your own county. So clerks upstairs are not just working in Dickinson County cases, they're working cases throughout District 3A. We have 3 what we call big C clerks. Used to be every county had a big C clerk. Now we have 3 in our 10 counties, and Teresa Eakin is one of those. And she then manages Lyon, Osceola, Emmett, and Dickinson. And then we have a big C clerk in Spencer that handles the other 5. And we have a big C clerk in Cherokee that just handles, well, she handles also Ida County to the south in District 3B. We operate as one district, but we keep kind of in our lines. There's another several judges down in Sioux City, and then I have to go down there and do conflict cases. Say an attorney gets a divorce in Sioux City, I have to go down there and handle that case because the district court judges don't want to do that down there. So we do cross lines, and there's then 16 counties, and of course Sioux City is a big issue because of the number of cases and size of that community. We do have a new position, an assistant district associate or administrator. Lori Jansen was the clerk of court in Spencer. Really a great wealth of knowledge. She's been a clerk for several years, and so she serves to kind of just help us. It's been a difficult season for staffing. I think in at least 5 of the counties, we've lost really good staff because they went to county positions. You may or may not know, but budgeting on the state level has been very negative, and county level has been very positive. I think county officials recognized the costs of inflation, and so pay increases across the board throughout all the counties in the state have been significant. State has been at 0, and which has caused us losing a lot of good staff throughout the state, but most importantly in District 3A, which creates problems. But again, that rural initiative really helps. So I can have a clerk in Buena Vista County work on a probate case in Cassuth County without losing that experience if they lose somebody. So that really does help. On top of that, we've also had an increase in all of our areas of caseload. I wouldn't call it significant, but I would call it a trend. I think we saw probably in the late 2016, 17s in that area that cases were actually decreasing. But in the last 2 years, now that has dramatically changed, I would say. So as far as cases like pending year to date, compared to last year, we have, and this is in the 10 counties, an additional 68 just domestic cases sitting there compared to the year before. So we see an upward trend in all our caseload, not dramatic, but when you lose staff and you're struggling to maintain that, that means cases don't always get to like people would like to see. So the other thing I would say is the complexity of the cases is significant. I know you guys have felt that with drainage issues and pipeline issues. Well, we're the ones that review those things. And when they don't, when it's first time things, there's no case law to tell me how to do it, right? I was the judge that handled the first oil pipeline coming through Cherokee County. And I had a packed courtroom and, you know, I was the first test case. Well, when I took this job, I thought there was answers for all the cases that I had. Well, that's not how it works. We have to interpret those things, and Judge Sandy had to interpret a very difficult case for you guys here locally. So all those things are just increasing in complexity. I do see an upturn in protection orders. I think all of us are feeling what it costs to go to grocery stores, and those of us in poverty in our community see that, and then it translates into how husbands and wives or significant others treat each other. And we've seen a big uptick in protection orders, which is a safety issue for all of us. And again, all those levels, we see an increase in complexity and safety issues. Of course, we saw that about a year ago. I was the judge that tried our murder case here. And even though that case wasn't in the courthouse, it was related to a custody case. It was related to a court matter that occurred about 3 or 4 weeks before that murder. Okay. Kasuth County to our east has really struggled in this area in the last 5 years. At least 3 or 4 murders related directly to domestic disputes. That violence could have occurred in the courthouse. Now, there is a pending case over there you guys all know about that you would recognize, where a law enforcement officer was killed. The suspect, I'm not going to say anything more about that because he hasn't been tried yet, but that gentleman was in the courthouse that day. So his conduct was related to court. So that's kind of where I'm at, and I'm coming to you guys. I know you probably kind of know. We've talked about courthouse security here in the past, and I think we kind of set it back a little bit just because a lot of things were going on. But I'm kind of at the point as the presiding judge to ask that we start the process and ask that you guys step into the role that I think Dickinson County would compare to. Clay County, Buena Vista County have a part-time deputy present during all motion days in the hallway, and then will come into the courtroom and assist with security and serve somewhat as a bailiff, but mostly there for security. Kasuth County, probably because of what's occurred over there, has now decided, the sheriff there has decided to hire a full-time deputy to be in the courthouse, the entire courthouse, not to screen people as they come in, but will be present in the courthouse during working hours. So he may come into the courtroom depending on a request, but otherwise he'll have an office in the courthouse and will be there when the courthouse is open. Lyon County is the other outlier that has had courthouse security since 2009. I was the county attorney when we started that. We have 2 officers there every motion day, screening everybody that comes into the third floor of the courthouse in Lyon County. And so we kind of got the state of art there. We've had that for a long time. And I will tell you, it's the most comfortable courthouse to go to. I go to 5 other courthouses where I'm my own security and there's no secure doors. And I've had a situation recently where I was the one kind of stepping into that role, and that wasn't fun. And it's some of our courses aren't safe at all. Now, of course, we do have state of the art in the form of the secure doors. We have video, we have all those things. We have our sheriff in the basement. But I don't know when somebody's going to lose it in the courtroom. I can't predict it. I'd like to say I could. The gentleman that is charged right now, you know, he's presumed innocent, but that gentleman was in my courtroom several times, and I didn't see this coming. I knew he was upset about things, but I can't predict that, and I can't get our sheriff into the courtroom fast enough. So I'm asking you guys to consider that. I met with Steve and Sheriff Balloon. We kind of bounced around a lot of ideas. We looked at budget options. When I started the budget in Lyon County, it was about $25,000. I'm guessing it's about 30 to 40,000 right now annually to pay for, usually it's a retired officer or an officer that wants to moonlight from a police department. Buena Vista County's budget for 2023 was $75,000, and they've used about $65,000. Now they're a little busier than we are, but I think we'd be between 30. I think we'd be around 50,000, maybe a little more. Sheriff Balloon could give you a lot more information about that. I know you guys would ask. I've been in the county shoes before. Well, why isn't the state paying for this, right? They won't. They won't provide a dime to courthouse security. Actually, under Iowa Code Chapter 331, 653, sub 4, it's been a duty of the sheriff for a long time. And what that looks like, of course, is up to Sheriff Balloon. But I'm making that request to you guys at this point, just because safety is important in our courtrooms. So that's kind of what I have. Just kind of where I'm looking at is we have 74 motion days during the year that are scheduled. And what we kind of do with the deputies, we guarantee them 4 hours. So if they are there in the morning for 4 hours, that would be their minimum. And then a lot of times we get the work done in the morning with our initial appearances, and then we are able to predict if we need any security in the afternoon. So in Lyon County, every time I'm there, I'm usually like, you guys can go for the day. And that's kind of what those officers want. They want it to be a part-time position, that they enjoy their morning, meet a lot of people. I'll tell you how it kind of works. You would think like, well, doesn't that make people more kind of agitated? These officers are really good. They work with the public all the time. In fact, I started out with 2 troopers, and I thought, well, I don't like to get pulled over by a trooper. I get kind of intimidated, and you know, they can be kind of cranky. But those 2 troopers, even though they were intense guys, they were the best with the public you ever saw. They just would calm people down, say, hey, you're going to get your day in court. You're going to be heard today. But we want to make sure everybody's safe. And even the individuals that may be a threat issue, they appreciate that too. Then they know they're going to get their day in court. So that's kind of what we would look at here. So that would be the minimum. I would tell you that, you know, when we have a jury trial like we've had here recently, you know, then it's a full week where you're going to have that officer present and working. So that would just be the bare minimum, those number of days. But I think it's hopefully very possible. I hope you guys understand that. You guys have questions for me on how that kind of looks? Yes. I got the Teresa's wrong. Excuse me. Teresa Eakin. And actually, or Teresa Gregory, but I think she got married, so I don't think it's Teresa Gregory either. So you're wrong.
I had the right person.
You did have the right person. No, I had the right person in my mind. Yes. So.
Judge, I appreciate your request. I guess I'm curious, Greg, what are your thoughts with this? Because it's going to fall in your budget.
We tried heading this off several years ago, when we hired the investigator in the county attorney's office. That was part of that duties, you know, to alleviate that from our office. all the other counties he was talking about, we're the only ones that are in-house, you know, so that helps some. But we'll have to sit down. I think part of it's design flaw. I wish the clerk and the engineer would switch offices. That'd make it a whole lot easier. You know, just everything would be in that hallway. We talked about that 20 years ago, but it didn't happen, so. Why wouldn't they want security? Everyone else does, so we'll have to figure something out.
Well, I'm thinking we have bulletproof desk here for a reason, right? I mean, there's a concern. And so I understand that, but I think that's like you said, it's a logistic thing. I feel safer having the sheriff's department right here in the building. That's a big plus. Will they be at everything? It's hard to say, right?
Right.
But I think your input's very important in this and how it's gonna work.
We'll have to sit down and figure out something.
Yeah, that's why I think I was gonna make the request that we would appoint one of you guys with the county attorney and Greg and myself. We could sit down and put something together to present to you guys but I'd like to get your guys' input and be part of that. And I can get more detailed than what I think it would look like for everybody's benefit.
Would you have personnel, Greg, that could do this?
No,
No. I'm all in
not,
favor.
not to commit to it.
I'm all,
We do when we have the heads up. you
Right.
know, We can make it happen, but to be there no.
I'm all in favor of this. Before I took this job down in Clay County, they always have a presence down there and it really does calm that hallway down in Clay County. It just runs smoother, just to know that there's someone there. We have had a couple of incidents, in juvenile court here recently. We've taken to, a lot of times when we're in hearing, we're locking the doors so people can't get in because we don't know who's coming in the back door. And it's supposed to be a public venue and a public setting and kind of goes against my grain that we're locking ourselves up in there when we're doing that. So I'm all in favor of, obviously we're in budget time. I'm all in favor of it and sooner the better, as far as I'm concerned. So.
Well, how much would you budget if you've got a part-time person?
Well, I think Judge Peter, I want to,
Hard enough finding part-time, full-time people, more or less part-time.
the $50,000 number is one I was hearing to start, is the number I was hearing. There may be, when we met with Greg, I don't want this all coming out of Greg's budget necessarily. There may be some other funding streams that we can help with that. I've talked to Beth Will concerning some courthouse money. I have some collection money that I might be able to put towards it, but we need to sit down and put that all together to see what that looks like. So.
I think it needs to be a designated, if we're gonna do this, it needs to be a designated, structured revenue stream. You can't rely on anything else for it, I don't think. It's really difficult now, since you've come and made that speech, for us to ignore this problem but it is ironic that it comes at a time when the state is cranking down on our ability to levy taxes more than they ever have. But I'll personally consider it. Sounds reasonable.
Anyone want to be on our committee? That's as loud as we're here. You want to be on our committee?
Can be.
Okay. Is that all right with you guys?
If you need more than.
Put two on it?
I'm open, whatever you guys, just,
You and Jeff?
get that discussion going.
Okay.
You all okay with that?
It's fine.
Okay. So since we are getting ready to go into budget times, probably should get together sooner as opposed to later. I'll send out an email to all of us to get some dates.
Okay.
So.
All right, you guys, happy holidays.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Judge.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thanks.
Now I gotta find out Teresa's last name.
Wallendorf.
Wallendorf is what, okay. Okay, I didn't know. I think I knew she'd gotten married.
Yes,
Morning.
ma'am. Good morning.
I just have pay application number 2 for the Tatakaska Rail Trail from Montgomery going west to 170th. They've been busy out there doing some grading when they can, when the weather's good, and most of its work is done west of the bridge. And now they're focusing on east of the bridge, which would be the shorter portion of the project. So as far as the grading goes, so it's basically what we're making a payment for today.
Okay,
Motion to approve.
thank you, Kim.
And second that.
Kim has moved, Tim has seconded. Do you have any discussion? Okay. So it's been moved by Kim to approve $69,383.03 to Corey Jurgens for the Tonka Scott Trace Recreational Trail Project.
Correct.
Kim.
Aye.
Tim.
Aye.
Jeff.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye.
And Bill is aye.
Thanks, Aaron. Looking good. We're getting there.
Excited to get this
Yeah.
thing done.
Then you're completed,
Yeah.
right?
Sure you are.
Then you're done with that fair.
Corey
This
Jurgens.
this is the last section. I
For
Look.
now.
thought this is the last section to Lake Park.
That section to Lake.
Yeah,
Park,
the
yes.
Lake Park is
It's gonna be
over.
really nice.
Kim's gonna
They're
buy
excited.
hot dogs for everybody.
I'll do it. They're
Yeah,
excited.
we'll have to have a celebration.
I think so too.
I think so. Big
Did have
accomplishment.
more than one plate. Oh, we have two of these.
3.
Three.
No, you lots of money today, Bill.
You realize these are costing you $15 a signature.
See what my grant money.
Yeah, apply for a grant.
Yeah, there you go.
Speaking of which, we did go, Yvonne and I went and presented at the CAT committee on Thursday last week. That's looking very positive.
Good.
We have to go back to like January 4th. State we made our funding gap, so. there's a interesting
Well,
Process.
I met with the auditor this morning and she's worried about how much you're getting. Apparently, if you hit the $700,000 mark, something kicks in.
Maybe we got it.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I don't know, if about a half hour of my job, I get 49,000.
Good for you. Good work. Good for us, I should say.
Yeah, so I don't, it's not a done deal, the recommendations.
Well, let's hope.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Next on the agenda was to be the discussion concerning potential dissolution of DD 50. Unfortunately, Mr. Klingbeil, the engineer for that, has the flu. And so I would desire to move this to next week unless Steve has anything to say.
Well, I know we got some folks from Milford here and we could
Mhm.
probably talk about it a little bit. I mean, Colin is here next week because I know we're on the agenda with him next week as well. But I mean, Tim and Steve were in the same meeting I was at, so we could have at least start a discussion here about what that looked like. I do feel more comfortable if Colin's here because he's kind of the in and out guy. We had a meeting last week where we talked with Jim Hudson on the phone regarding the potential of dissolving DD 50 and what that would look like, what that would entail, and where we would go from here. So I'd open it up like that.
I would like to have the beginning of the discussion today. Steve could keep us out of jail, I'm sure.
I can.
And that way the people that are here for it can have a say. I mean,
I agree.
at least get their feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure Steve could lead the whole discussion, right?
I can give it a shot. I rely on Colin as my crutch a lot of times for this kind of stuff, but I mean, the discussion was basically under 468. If we were to decide to do this, it would start with, we would notify and send a letter to all the landowners in the district just to see what their thoughts were, if they wanted to sign up, ask for it to be dissolved and see where that would go. That's kind of where we were gonna start. So we have that. And what that would look like, that's still that 60-40 that we were, 60-50 that we were talking about. I talked to Kim about this after the meeting. So there's a lot of pros and cons for where we're at about dissolving or not dissolving. And that's why we brought the discussion to the board.
Well, if I remember right, we can't dissolve the branch. We have to dissolve the whole district.
Yep, yes, that was accurate.
Yeah,
That was a lengthy discussion
That
that
was
we
a
had.
lengthy discussion, so it's not just the branch we've worked with the last couple of years. It's the whole district that would be affected.
That is true.
In my opinion, it's really important that one of the parts of this conversation that we have is if you like the assessment that you got last time for 10,000, 20,000, whatever it was, you'll like the next one you get even less, because the way the law is going forward, if someone in 5 years or 10 years or whatever files another petition, if that's still in a drainage district, it's gonna have to come before the trustees or the board of supervisors in this case, and they're gonna have to decide whether to go through this whole process again or not. And you do run a risk of getting a similar assessment and have the exact same outcome. I think it's really in the best interest, especially the people on DD 33 or the branch 33, to dissolve this thing now. Furthermore, when you look down, and Steve, I'm sure you're kind of an expert on this too. If you look down on all the buildings that have been built over the top of different parts of this drainage district, this problem is not unique to this particular branch. I mean, there's a lot of people that could get huge assessments. And the thing that I have learned sitting on this board as a drainage district trustee, I will use everything in my power to follow drainage law to the letter of the law. And that means if someone files for a petition to repair or improve and your building's in the way, I will insist that that building be removed at your expense. And I think that's the letter to the law. Had we followed that in the first place, a lot of people would have had smaller bills, I think. Maybe I'm sounding harsh, but the reality is a lot of people get, let's just say, screwed on this deal, the way it is. And you have an opportunity to correct that from happening again, but you'll need to get everybody in the drainage district to vote with a majority. What is it? Is it 60%? Does anybody remember what that was?
60% of 50%.
And landowners?
60%
50?
of the landowners and 50% of the land.
Yep.
Is the.
60-50.
Yeah.
So the reason for this meeting is to see if there's any interest in somebody wanting to sign a petition to start. Looks like you got somebody that wants to talk.
I hope you do come talk, Steve. I'm interested to see what you got to say.
So the reason why we're here, that I wanted to put a little history into this. So the sanitary district got our assessments. And I was assessed for land that was on the east side of Milford Creek. All the drainage district is on the west side of Milford Creek. So how improvements on the west side of Milford Creek impacts the east side, nobody could understand that. And we went back and we looked through, and I worked with Jordan, and we actually found out that that parcel wasn't supposed to be in there.
Do you want the map up or not?
No, I'm good with that. So that was the first thing. And then we actually found two more parcels that were being assessed by the sanitary district that weren't in the drainage district. And then I was looking at another parcel, and which is the southwest corner of the sanitary district property where the plant sits. And we spent about $200,000 to fix drainage that was coming from the north, coming down through the property in the corner of the storm sewer system, that their drainage system, I call it storm sewer now, but it was the original drainage system. The corner of it was in the drainage district, but the rest of it was out. And so when we actually designed that drainage system to deal with the 100-year flow coming through there, we actually modeled it. And I actually sent the map to Cole and Colin, and I can't remember, Tim, if I sent that to you.
We did.
And I think it may send it to Jordan, but it actually, the drainage coming down through there is actually fairly sizable, and none of it is in the drainage district. So I said, well, either the sanitary district parcel is totally out of the drainage district, or all this land up here has to be part of the drainage district, because the culverts, you can literally follow the culverts and do the measurement and the water comes into it. So that's where the discussion was and that's why we got to this point is, the district should be reclassified. Is that what the right term is?
Yeah.
And actually have somebody go out and survey and figure out what actually comes in the drainage district and get everybody properly assessed. Well, you start looking at that cost just to figure out who's supposed to be in the drainage district. They thought their assessments were bad before. They're probably going to be as worse, if not worse than what they were. So that's where the discussion, and I just wanted to put that into pretext is that there's land that is not, that's part of the drainage district that's not being assessed, or they're using the drainage district and it's not being assessed. And that's where this whole conversation's kind of started from. So that's what I wanted to throw out there as the pretext, so everybody knows how we got to this point.
It's important though to remember that to solve his very real problem, which is required, I think, by law.
Yeah.
There again, we're gonna assess the people in this district a whole bunch of money again. And it's just such a losing proposition for you.
Yeah. And I don't know, when you look at what's all happened in that drainage district, I mean, the highway 71 corridor changed because the highway used to go a different direction. You've got culverts that have been installed, and I got to even thinking that drainage district, I know was established before the rail line even went through there. The rail line went through there, they built a bed right through the middle of it, put culverts in, drainage. At that point, I don't think they cared about what drainage was happening. It was all agricultural ground out there. Well, now it's not. So there's been a lot of things that have happened over the years that just, everybody kind of forgot the drainage district was there, and now we've got to figure out what we want to do with it. So.
But I think the steps should be outlined, what has to happen. It takes somebody to sign a petition. Isn't that is it a petition?
As I understood from Mr. Hudson, it's the same as improving or
Yeah.
repairing the district. It takes a petition by one or more people, to dissolve it. And then we have to do all the notifications and send letters out and see who is in favor of it. And it's a process.
And you better first figure out where it is. If you've got property that's outside of it or in.
Does it cost too much money?
If we do that, Bill, you're gonna put another $250,000 on the backs of the people that are in the district.
In the
And then
branch.
ask them to pay it and then dissolve it.
But Steve, it's in the branch.
Yeah, it's in the branch.
480 acres, isn't it?
Yeah.
So 480 acres will be dividing up a pretty significant cost just to find out that they're in or out of this drainage district that's no longer working. We don't believe it's really functioning.
No.
If it is, it's way below what it should be. It just doesn't seem to me like a good idea to continue. And there again, I was maybe a little matter of fact earlier when I made my comments, but if it came back to this board again tomorrow, I'm pretty sure this board would immediately say it doesn't make sense and kick it down the road. That's what we did last time. But that's not fixing the problem, because another board could look at it entirely different. And you'd be back in the same situation and spending an awful lot of money.
I'm curious, Steve, do you have a thought on this dissolution of it? I mean, I was hoping when we had this meeting last week that you would be here today. Because you're in a unique position with the sanitary district and city of Milford. You're kind of in a unique position. So.
For the sanitary district, it doesn't impact us one way or the other.
Okay.
That's the way I look at it. Those two can represent the city.
The mayor punted.
Well, I think the city's biggest question is the problem that started the whole petition.
It won't go away.
So what happens then, and whose problem does it become if it's no longer a drainage district problem?
Well, then we would revert back to just drainage law, regular drainage law. The water's gonna run a certain direction, the city would be involved to a pretty big extent. But at least there'd be somebody would have the authority or the means to do it. Whereas, I mean, look at the position we're in. We can only work with, we should have stayed right in our right of way to begin with, instead of venturing off right from the beginning. Said, no, here's the right of way, here's our easement, I should say, not right of way, I'm using the wrong term. I understand the problem would still exist, but at least we'd know where we had to go to solve it.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on it?
Well,
You're
I think
familiar with it.
it's hard to argue that the benefit doesn't outweigh the cost. You know, that's part of 483. That's just a couple sentences of it, and then it goes on for a couple of pages to tell you about the 60% and 50%.
Yeah.
But I think the city's issue would be then the original petitioners still have the same issue.
Mhm.
And then if it's no longer a drainage district, it's now in the city of Milford.
Yep.
And they have the luxury of knowing what the potential cost and impact of not doing anything or fixing it is. And taking on that burden, you know, should they agree.
Yeah, I guess we've had a lot of discussions on this, and I think our feeling was that if we just work within the drainage district law, we really are not the entity to solve this problem, you know, it just doesn't work for us.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
don't
we have.
disagree, but I don't know if the city is either, because, you know, if you follow the law, it says you can't hinder and block drainage. Well, it's not hindered and blocked by the city. So I don't know if they specifically have a responsibility to improve anything.
See, we're already solving it. It goes back to whoever blocked the drainage. That's who's gonna be responsible, I think. Yep.
I recall a lot of discussion when we had this phone call with Miss Jim Hudson talking about reverting this back to drainage, just more natural drainage law and taking it outside the drainage district. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that that's where it reverts back to. And all these assessments we're doing back to the branch. I mean, I'd be upset if I was a property owner having to pay for all this. I understand that. So it's a no-win situation. This is hard.
That's a good way to put it. I mean, it's hard not to play everybody's perspective, and
Yeah.
Mhm.
it's difficult.
This is hard.
That's why it's drug on so long, and that's why we're here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I get it. And
We were in those meetings a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
it's just that the cost of what someone else did is being borne by people who had no hand in causing that problem using drainage district law as it's written. We don't, unless we actually get forceful and make people move stuff out of the way, which is just a god awful thing. And I mean, I think, is it a 6-inch tile? I forget what it is that we're
Yeah, it's
talking
a
about.
6 that goes up
6-inch
through
tile
there.
trying to remove that much water. I mean, you're the engineer. I don't have to tell you what effect that would have. Even if it was perfect, it wouldn't be satisfactory, would it?
No.
So it needs fixing. But that's what this meeting was about, was to see what the general feeling was amongst people. You have anything to say, Jim? You're kind of involved in this. Or I shouldn't have kicked the engineer off. I'm sorry about that.
I'm just a minnow in the ocean, but I'm one of those who got a bill for this
Mhm.
assessment of $1,200 for a quarter of an acre. And I am not in favor of this damn thing. And when I first learned about it, I was pretty dumbfounded. And I mean, the little bit of exposure I've had to it, I mean, is just insane that one person can basically have an issue and get a guppy to go along with them and create all this. And it's insane. But so then when I heard that there was a possibility of dissolving the drainage district, I thought, well, absolutely, you know, and at least get it back into kind of the public hands, so to speak, so that it can be dealt with legally. I mean, from what I'm understanding, you folks have got your hands tied. You can't do a damn thing anyway. And so now we've gotten $250,000 spent that there was no justification for, so to speak. So do I want to get more assessments? No. So anyway.
Thank you.
Anybody got any questions for me? Like I said, I'm just a minnow in the ocean.
Well, You have 1,200 reasons to talk though, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And just to reinforce what Tim said, you know, when push comes to shove, we are required by law. If somebody would petition this to fix it, you know, if they brought that back, we'd have to do something. You know, whether we just kicked it out right away, but we'd have to be justified, you know, we'd have to justify our actions. If we said, no, we're not gonna do that, we'd have to say why. You know, and there's no limitation on the number of times that somebody can come back and ask for the drainage fixed through a drainage district. They just, you know, it's a state law, we're bound by it.
I did have one other thought or comment, and I'm probably clear off base. But the two of the people that spoke, it seems to me like one was the sanitation district and the other was from the city. And they're not the ones writing the checks. You know, they're speaking for the public, they're doing what they should do. But I wrote the check out of my account. And anyway, that's all.
Just one other thing that we haven't discussed here today, it's been discussed in the past, but thought it was worth noting here today is that the drainage district branch 33 is not the only means of drainage for this area. There's other drainage systems in place that have been installed by the city of Milford that are better designed and better equipped to take on the area after it's been developed. You know, there's a 78-inch storm tile. The lower portion of the drainage district has been replaced with an open ditch. What exists of branch 33 is what we think is probably just incremental. And you have a 6-inch tile that is likely tied into, I believe, a 15-inch storm sewer up through that same area. So, you know, by dissolving the drainage district, you aren't by any means removing all drainage for this area. You're basically removing the drainage district's, I guess, role in this, which has basically been eliminated by changes of Highway 71, changes that the city of Milford made above it with more modern urban drainage, and changes, I guess, as Steve noted, from the railroad when that went through as well. So there's been a lot of changes, and the original intention of the drainage district was for agricultural drainage. There's minimal agricultural drainage that's needed in this area now, as it's all been developed, or a majority of it's been developed. There are still a few ag fields, but I think a lot of those also have outlets that aren't going to be affected by the dissolution of the drainage district. So.
Yeah.
Thanks, Cole. Somewhat related to that, maybe a question for Steve, or if this came up with Jim. Should the drainage district be dissolved, is there any recourse by any property owners to immediately or at any point in time file a petition to recreate the drainage district?
Yeah, they can.
Because a portion of this property, I mean, what Cole mentioned isn't incorrect, but there is a portion of this property that is draining into the incorporated limits of Milford that is not currently annexed into Milford.
It's my belief that once the dissolution would go through, if 2 or more property owners wanted to petition and come back to create a drainage district, we'd have to look at it. You know, under 460, I don't think we have a choice.
Sure.
So,
Which either way it goes, what Tim's been saying, it either, whether it's this drainage district or one in the future.
But I guess the way it is now, the bar is quite low for them to cause a lot of trouble. I mean, maybe it's 10 years from now, or maybe it's next year. I don't know. 10 years from now would be a more logical, problematic solution or situation than I could envision here. Because by then it'd be hard to rely on the engineering that had been done. You know, right now we can fall back on all the engineering and say, guys, this just doesn't make any sense. 10 years from now, another board might look at this entirely differently, and they might actually go through with that project. And the majority of that cost was in leaving the original easement, you know, procuring new easement, dealing with utilities, and well, you were involved in those meetings, you saw that. But going forward, I really believe that I really believe that if this was transferred down to the individuals, I think the problem would probably be solved overnight. You know, it's not that complicated of a problem in my opinion. I'm not the engineer, of course, but if you have the key floodies working with their neighbors, I really think that the problem would be solved fairly quickly with some engineering. Am I wrong? Don't you? Couldn't you
I
solve
don't
it?
disagree that something maybe could be figured out.
I would just think you could solve it.
And when it's a drainage district project, it has to be looked at from the whole. Whereas the whole system designs from downstream up to
That makes sense.
everything at the
Yep,
beginning of
sense.
it, which was in large part the high cost, because everything was very big material.
Along those lines, in all those meetings that we sat through, there was a lot of really kind of common sense suggestions made. But none of the engineers in the room would sign off on that. Because it wasn't engineered to the, whatever level it would need to be engineered to use taxpayer money.
Standard.
Where if you have two agreeing neighbors, they'd say, let's try this. And for $20,000, they could try something, see if it worked. Whereas we don't have that luxury spending money from the district in this case. That was, I mean, don't you remember those conversations?
yeah.
And don't you think some of those were at least a combination of unengineered solutions might together combine to relieve it significantly?
Yeah, I mean, that's what got us into this thing was unengineered predicaments, right?
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. Okay.
I was just gonna touch a little bit more on what Jason said about reestablishment of a drainage district. So obviously I already covered that there's still drainage in place. You're not taking all means of drainage away on this. And then if after it was dissolved, somebody came back, there wouldn't necessarily be recourse to reestablish the same district. There's no process for that. It would be establishment of a new district. It wouldn't be reestablishing the same district, even though they would in theory have the same watersheds. It would be an all new district. So whoever petitioned that would have to have a bond put forth for the engineering study. And then they would need to go to vote the same way that the dissolution does, where somebody goes and you have, I believe it's also the same 60-50 split for reestablishment of a drainage district or establishing a new drainage district in this case. And then if after that vote, it didn't go through, that's why that landowner has that bond. Because then whoever petitions it is responsible for the cost to reestablish if it isn't agreed upon by everybody or it doesn't have the passing vote to go to an improvement. If it does have the passing vote to go to improvement, they then get that bond back and the new drainage district is established and they're responsible for that cost. But I guess the responsibility of an engineering report and that kind of thing to establish a new drainage district is on the petitioners. They have to put that bond forward. And then if the vote is favorable, that bond then gets turned back over to them. If it is not favorable, then the cost for engineering comes out of that bond.
But while you're on that topic, so if you decide to establish a new drainage district through this area, these people that put the drainage district in place would have to somehow secure an easement, either by private treaty or something, or eminent domain, I suppose, or whatever it is. That's going to be pretty expensive too, just like it was for us when we tried it. Because you can't just take land to put an easement through, can you? If you're doing a drainage district, or can you?
I think you probably could. There'd still be damages associated with that, but if the drainage district says, well, this is the best path through here, I wouldn't say it's not, I don't know if 468 really lays out an eminent domain process. It basically just lays out that the easement should be the best means of getting tile through, if I understand it correctly.
Well, wouldn't they have
recalling.
to engineer it around the current structures that are out there
Correct.
and so on then?
Yeah, that's the other thing that would be taken into consideration if a new drainage district got petitioned. It would be like, you would say, well, they would look at the current drainage that's in place. So, they'd say, well, City of Milford has a 78-inch main through here. And then they would need to they'd either have to run a parallel main for their own outlet next to it, or they'd have to get permission from the City of Milford to tie in to that main, with, their drainage district. And really, it probably wouldn't make a lot of sense. If somebody petitioned to reestablish a district through here, I don't think it would make sense. So the fact that there's one existing right now is really only in place because it existed before all this other infrastructure was in place.
I don't know if we're done with our discussion, but I would like to put, if we are, I would like to put this back on for next week. Because I know Colin's here and I know he's scheduled to be here for another matter. So, and both he and Rick have been in all these meetings as long as we've been in these meetings, I think his input would be greatly appreciated by the board if he could be here as well. And I'm sorry he's sick today, so.
Well, I think we'll just call this a pre-discussion.
Yeah, I think that's what we talked about at our meeting.
Yeah, just to get, it's public information. Go home and chew on it, come back with a better idea.
See you next week.
I'm still worried about those people across the creek. Which drainage district are they really in?
Well, probably won't be, if they dissolve it, they won't be in one.
I'd take care of it, right?
If they're not in this one, which one are they?
They're not in one.
They're not in.
There is
There's one over there.
Okay.
But there's no real discussion. I mean, if you look at the map, it's plain that that's just wrong. I mean, you can't drain across the creek. It gets more complicated back further.
Huh?
All right. On to number 7. Approval of the December 5th board meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Steve.
Second.
Thank you, Jeff. It's been moved and seconded to approve the board meeting minutes. Is there any further discussion?
Not in 100 years.
Hearing none. Steve?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Kim?
Aye.
And Bill is aye. Item number 8, the approval of claims. Does anyone see anything amiss on that?
I did on page 1, under an expense that I actually put in there, it has Pizza Ranch. It's actually mileage. I talked to Kristen about it. Some manual things didn't get done, so it came out looking like I did a party at the Pizza Ranch. It's actually mileage. It's on page 1.
Sure.
Third item down. Okay.
So did somebody make a motion on them or not?
Not yet.
No.
Nobody's
No.
done it yet. Because there might be something else in there, and then we'd have to say including or excluding.
I saw nothing out of the ordinary.
Okay. Tim or Jeff, did you see anything? Then I would take a motion. Make sure you exclude the pizza. Change it to mileage.
Motion to approve the expenses.
Second.
Second, okay.
Are you including changing
Yes.
pizza to mileage?
Yes.
Okay, so it's been moved by Jeff, seconded by Steve to approve the expenses. Any further discussion? If not, Jeff,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Kim,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
and Bill is aye. Okay, there weren't any drainage claims this week, so we'll go on to our engineer.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sign. Hopefully I'm not getting charged the same rate as Aaron.
Well, actually, for engineers, it's $1 more. Yeah.
Okay, the first thing that we have is consider request for repairs on drainage district number 88. This one was request for repairs by Jeff Jones on drainage district number 88. It was found that he has it listed as a tin whistle, the CMP end section coming off the main tile into the drainage or into the drainage. It's not a main open ditch or anything. It just outlets to a creek, but it had fallen off, it was in disrepair, had been rusted out, so it needs to be replaced. This should be anywhere from $500 to $1,000 to do this repair. It's pretty straightforward. We can have the county guys do it.
Motion to approve.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Kim? It's been moved and seconded to approve the repair of BD 88. Is there further discussion? Hearing none. Steve?
Aye.
Kim?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And Bill is aye.
The next item I have is consider final payment for MP 2204 N14/A34 intersection patching to 10 Point Construction Incorporated. This was the big patch that occurred on A34 and N14 as noted. There's really bad potholes there. So we'd worked with 10 Point here this spring to get that added into their patching program that they're finishing up. So this, you'll see the next item is very similar to it. It's also going to 10 Point, but this one was separate. And we're releasing the retainage that was withheld on that, and that's in the amount of $3,566.57.
Motion to approve.
Okay, Steve has moved.
I'll second.
Jeff has seconded. Further discussion? As there is none. Steve?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Kim?
Aye.
And Bill is aye.
Okay, item number 3 is consider final payment for MP 2204 patching to 10 Point Construction. This was for concrete patching that occurred on N14. So this was on different portions of N14, A34, A20, M27, and M34. The other patch that we discussed was specifically the patches that occurred at the N14, A34 intersection. These are other smaller patches that occurred on the N14, A34, A20, M27, and M34 stretches of road. And that is in the amount of $8,774.97. And again, that's releasing retainage.
I'd move to pay that.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
I'll second.
Thank you, Kim. It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion on this? As there is none. Tim?
Aye.
Kim?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And Bill is aye.
The fourth item I have today is consider construction of pay estimate report number 9 to Peterson Contracting Incorporated for FMC 030 parentheses 64 5E30. This is more commonly referred to as the A34 shoulder widening project. This got finished up about a year and a half ago, I would say. About when I was joining on, there was just a couple things that were hanging out there as far as certificates and stuff that we're waiting on, and then getting that all approved with the contractor and the DOT and ourselves. Once that all came in, we're ready to release retainage on that now. So approval of this pay estimate will then serve as the nod to the DOT that the county has officially approved the project and everything like that. And then the DOT will release the remaining retainage out of the farm to market account that they manage for us. And that is in the amount, the retainage on that is $21,287.46.
So that's our final payment for that project, or is there another one after this yet?
That's the final,
This is it.
final, yes.
I'd move to approve that.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
Second.
Thank you, Steve. It's been moved and seconded to approve this payment of retainage. Any discussion? Hearing none. Tim?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Kim?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
And Bill is aye.
And the last one I have today is consider approval of final plans for STP SC 030 parentheses 69 5E 30. This is the M27 paving project into Lake Park. This is approval of final plans. Once we approve the final plans, they'll be sent to the DOT for their final review. Following their final review, we'll go to bidding, I believe, or to their letting dates, and I believe that's set for March 19th right now. 2024 is when that'll go to bid, and then we'd anticipate construction probably in the following summer and fall.
Motion to approve?
Okay, thank you, Kim.
I can second that.
Thank you, Tim. It's been moved and seconded. To approve the final plans for the Lake Park paving project. Is there further discussion?
I just note that the folder that I gave Bill, he'll pass that around, and there's the boxes for all your signatures on it there, and I've signed it, and then we'll scan it and send that to the DOT.
If there's no further discussion, Kim?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
And Bill is aye.
Only other thing I guess I'd note is that we're putting in the culvert on 160th Street. It's currently going in the ground right now, so construction weather's been really favorable to get this late into December. There'll be one culvert left. I believe they're taking a 2-week break after this, so that'd push things into January. I'm not optimistic the weather is going to hold that long for us, where we won't have pretty deep frost early January, but I guess there's the chance. Otherwise, we'll resume those projects in the spring. Other than that, I'll be out the rest of this week at the engineers conference down in Des Moines, but I'll be available by phone.
Awesome.
Mostly protractors.
I think it's pretty exciting. Watch all the work that's getting done in this county. I think it's
Big
pretty
time.
impressive.
And ahead of where we thought we'd be.
The best part about the engineers conferences, there's usually a couple good speakers that you get to listen to, and there's some relevant topics they covered as far as funding stuff. Go through there, good to stay up to date on. They also, I get credits that go towards keeping my license in check, so that's always a good thing.
Yep. I see you re-upped it in the bills.
It's good till 2025.
Good
December
deal.
2025. 2 more years.
Good.
Thanks, Cole.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Cole.
Okay, we've come to the portion of our agenda for general discussion, board and committee reports. Kim?
At a Silver Lake Improvement Association meeting, they're still excited and working on the Silver Lake Basin project, which would be north of Silver Lake, to capture a lot of that water and hopefully a lot of the phosphorus and things that can get into Silver Lake. Of course, then they'd have to work on Trapper's Bay to clean that out as well, but the DNR is really taking a lead role in this, so it's exciting to see where that's going. They approved payments for a couple of grants for private landowners who have done some shoreline projects. That's always exciting. And Mike Hawkins said that the DNR has approved phase 3 shoreline, which they've taken bids and they have written a contract with someone. They're going to start, it sounds like right after Christmas, cutting down a bunch of trees along the shoreline and continuing phase 3. So a lot of good things happening over there on the lake.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Okay. Steve?
Last Thursday, I attended the Early Childhood of Iowa Development meeting in Bartley. The programs are all progressing as assigned and scheduled. They're still struggling with dentists for kids. The reimbursement for dentists from the state is way low, so not too many want to hire onto that.
And well, and people don't show up for the.
Well, yeah, they schedule a time and people don't show up. And
And I've suggested they try working with rides, but I'm not getting anywhere on that, so. Then on the eighth, on Friday, I did a third judicial district advisory committee. That's what we are now instead of a board. And Maureen talked about some of the things that's going on down in Sioux City and how it's affecting something. There've been a few things that has affected positively, but so far, majority of them is on the negative side. Being managed, they're being managed from Des Moines by people that sit behind the desk and don't interact with the people that have to work with there, so.
Telling what Jeff Peterson was saying, I'm extremely concerned if they zero out their salaries for a second year, that may happen.
Yeah,
The number of people we are losing
it's gonna be,
is unbelievable.
yeah, well,
I mean, it brings a lot of what we do to a standstill, or, something that we file because they're training people and they're not there. Something you need and it's filed, you need it like that day or the next day, it might be 3 or 4 days before you get it.
yeah.
And it's gonna affect us. They keep doing it.
It's,
There it is.
yeah, it has not been so far a positive on the overall picture of how the third judicial district has operated. Wish I could say otherwise, but that's what it is. And then last night I went to the conservation foundation meeting. That's probably the most fun meeting I get to go to every year at pre-Christmas foundation meeting, because they all bring appetizers and I get full. So, but they're continuing to work with the Sherwood Foundation on the new park up there.
If you get a chance, drive by there.
Yeah,
It looks different.
it looks different. And they received the playground equipment, and I can't believe how much money playground equipment costs. It's all stored somewhere in boxes, and they paid that $300 and some thousand bill last night, so. But it's progressing, and I think it'll be pretty nice when it's done, so.
They don't know what's in the boxes yet, though?
Well, they didn't open them, they just have them stored.
I've
They
lived
think
through that a few times.
Anyway, that's all I did, so.
Okay, good job. Yeah,
Really didn't do anything.
okay, Jeff?
Over to me. Okay. Attended the Christmas luncheon here last Thursday, and it was wonderful. Great job by the organizers. Food was fantastic. I don't know how many different soups, and it was one of those days where I just wished I couldn't get full. But despite my wishes, I still got full. It was wonderful. I was kind of down for the count yesterday, so I missed the veterans meeting yesterday morning and P&Z yesterday afternoon. So I want to catch up with Spring and talk about the memorial plans out there. And then I'll go to the trustees today at 1:30.
Okay, very good. For me, I did the SLPA meeting last Saturday, Zoom meeting, and a lot of stuff going on. One of the cool things is Coleman's donating a dock and the putting in and taking out at Orleans Beach, or no, by the water treatment plant. So that's a big gift. Of course, you know me, I had asked, now do you have this down in writing? And well, they didn't. Well, what do you think can go wrong? Oh, nothing, But, and then, as Jeff said, I was at the veterans meeting yesterday morning. They're moving closer to knowing what they want to do, but there weren't a whole lot of people there, and the chairman came in late, and so Spring wants to hold another meeting next week, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. She pulled me in before this meeting. I told her, good idea, great idea. And after that meeting, I took Terry Heidebrink up to see Steve, questioning who pays for what. Another question I got on that, since we have to fix the plaza, I imagine we are responsible for moving the monuments that are there.
Okay,
Wouldn't that be correct?
if,
It would take county dollars. It's the county's problem to fix it.
right,
And if
in,
part of-
yeah, in that discussion, it was what, if we'd have to let things out for bids, and it was depending on who was paying for what, and as
Right.
I remember that discussion.
Right,
And so if we're paying for it, yes, we'd let that out for bids, and if we're doing the actual work, yes,
Right.
that'd be county dollars, yes.
so. Anyway, that's what I've been up to. And,
I have one thing, and she's gonna be mad at me for even talking about this publicly, but after 42 years of working for Dickinson County, Friday is Vanessa Potter's last day with Dickinson County. We're gonna miss her. We're gonna miss her. Somewhere upstairs, she's now mad at me for even talking about it.
yeah,
But I felt the need, so we will miss her, and she has done an amazing amount of work over the years for Dickinson County, and we don't know what to do without her, but
will you be holding a retirement party?
she has
or-
requested not to have one because she's pretty sentimental, so she does not want one.
Well, we
We're
got
gonna
a
take
guy
it-
that can get pizza for it.
Well, we are taking her out for supper, but we're doing a little better than pizza right now. So anyway, thank you.
Well, thank you. Anything from the
Jeff, you said that you missed the P and Z meeting yesterday. That meeting, isn't that the meeting scheduled for next week, December 18th? Okay, okay, so he didn't miss a meeting.
Jeff,
Okay,
how do you feel about that?
Yeah, you have this excuse.
yes,
I had it for Monday. Listen.
okay,
This is the part where you said I stand corrected.
okay, good.
I've got it on.
Apologize.
I won't be here.
I just have a reminder for, just so I don't forget next week, but we are meeting on the 27th instead of the 26th, since we have that day off. It doesn't need to be on the agenda, so just, like, I don't need to have it approved on the agenda, right?
Can you take care of that? I won't be here that
27.
I could be an attorney for a day, sure.
Sure.
Mhm. But yeah, we have the 25th and the 26th off, so we'll be meeting on the 27th.
Right, because we gotta pay the bills.
Yep.
So BOS meeting on the 27th.
Yep, instead of the 26th.
Okay.
Okay, and I won't be here. I'll zoom in next week, but I won't be here.
That's
Okay,
right. You'll be gone.
Yeah, I'll be in
Good for you.
North Carolina.
Just talk with Alyssa to get the information for that close, because we have other stuff next week at the end of the agenda.
Okay. I will talk to Alyssa.
all right.
One more thing. Sorry. Speaking of zooming in or a couple of weeks ago, you had mentioned that we need to follow all of the meetings. Why are we not saving those meetings on YouTube? I mean, they're streamed. Why are they not saved so somebody can view them later?
They are, you just have to request it.
Well, no, we shouldn't have to request it. They should just be there. There are a lot of counties that just keep those meetings up so that if we go back, we can figure out what we may have missed on a meeting without having to request it, without having to ask Alyssa's time, and without having to pay a fee to get it when it's months down the road, and trying to figure out which meeting it may have been that we wanted to request. I mean, there's a lot of counties. I've gone back and listened to meetings in Woodbury County and in Northwood. What's the Northwood? Is that the name of the county?
No.
North. Yeah, but you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've listened to a lot of county supervisors meetings across the state on different topics. I can't listen to ours. I can't watch ours. And we don't have the P and Z streaming their meetings either. We need more public ability to look at things and to understand issues, because there's a lot of discussion that, I mean, Jordan does a fabulous job on the minutes, but there's just things you don't get by reading minutes as opposed to listening to discussion.
I don't know why.
I don't know either. I mean,
I've talked to
all
Alyssa
for
and all
it,
she says is I just have to get the approval to do it.
If
I
you
don't
wanna,
know when that was instituted, to be honest.
well, COVID made it all this,
Right.
otherwise we never did it.
Right.
This was never live, it was an in-person meeting that you needed to be
Mm.
here, so we can talk with Alyssa if you'd like.
Will probably
I-
have to be on the agenda to have a
Mhm.
motion by the
Yeah.
board to,
Yep.
so.
Okay. Yeah,
Put it on
next
for
week,
next
maybe.
So we can put that on.
If she's gonna be available, it's during Christmas, or no, that's the following week. I'm a week off. I don't have to be ready for Christmas quite as
You
soon.
and Jeff ought to get together.
Pardon?
You and Jeff ought to get together. Then you could figure
We'll see you
things-
Monday, Jeff.
I think there are reasons that they don't do that. It wouldn't so much involve elected officials, but there are people, citizens who do come to these events and make some statement here. And granted, it is a public meeting and they have done it in a public setting, but there's been cases where they're become famous all around the world for what they said at a public meeting. So one of two things happen. Either that person just sits in the corner for fear of retribution, or some people it really bothers. It's a public meeting and I get you enjoy that. I get you, I mean, some of us don't mind. But there are people who are very reluctant to get up in public and say anything. And every time they see themselves on that YouTube thing that everybody's sharing now, that's a detriment. Board of Supervisors are fair game.
Yeah.
Whatever we say is beat us over the head with it, whatever you want to do. But I know that was one consideration one time when people were talking about that. If you just did elected officials, that'd be one thing. But then when somebody gets up, do they have any right to not be? I mean, imagine that you're involved in one particular issue and they say something that you find counter to your position, and suddenly you put it all over the world. Yeah, you have every right to do that, don't you? Is that right? I mean, will it bring people up next time or will they just sit in the corner?
Well, I mean, it is open meeting. There is open meeting. And if you look at the screen right now, my face is not on there.
Does that
You
bother
don't see me. So, well, no. I mean, the way it's set up, you do not see me. You hear my voice.
Well, that's.
You know, it is, you are speaking up in a public setting. Your name and your address and everything else can end up in the minutes. So, I mean, is it right not to let the public understand what's being talked about at these meetings? I don't think so. And you shouldn't require everybody to give up 9 a.m. on a Tuesday morning to be able to make it. I mean, we've got people, I have a luxury of being able to be here. There's a lot of people that do not. And we need to make sure that they can understand what's going on.
You can't see my point at all, though.
I can, who says I can't see your point at all?
mean,
I can
they're-
see your point, but I understand the point of all those people that want to know what's going on and that want to fully understand an issue. So,
We just
I mean,
need to follow the law.
if they do have an issue or problem addressing, they could write a letter. If they don't want to stand up and speak, they can write a letter to you or to Jordan, who can address the issue amongst everybody.
Well, we can think about it and talk about it next week.
Yeah.
We just don't have to zoom it at all, too. I don't think it's a requirement that you zoom.
No, I don't think it is a requirement that we zoom it at all.
But I think it's good.
I like it. I think it's good that everybody gets to
I
see it.
really do. Okay, if there's nothing else, I would take a motion to adjourn.
Don't forget about the annual meeting, the township clerks and trustees meeting this afternoon at 1:30.
Okay.
I
This
would make that
afternoon, 1:30.
motion to adjourn. Yeah,
Okay.
1:30. I got it down.
I'll second.
Yep. Okay, Tim has moved that we adjourn. No second, we're gonna stay here. Oh, Steve seconds. Further discussion? No? Okay, Tim,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Kim,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
And Bill is aye. We're officially adjourned at 10:29. Righty.